Okay, the mics are back on. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis of MAGE LLC and also host of Radio Entrepreneurs. And I couldn't be flanked by a better co-host, my favorite. And I was all excited to hear he was coming in today. Peter Myerson. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's great to be here, as it always is, and I'm always excited to be on the show.
All right. Having a good summer?
Having a great summer.
Oh, that's always good to hear. I always worry about Peter. Peter, you got to come over and get those pictures you were telling me about.
I will.
I'm ready for you.
Okay.
Our next guest, all the way from Seattle, Stephen Selikoff from the Canton Fair Experience. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
Well, we're going to have a couple of interviews with you. What are we going to be discussing in this first interview?
So in this first interview, we're going to be talking about our program, the Canton Fair Experience, where we help entrepreneurs identify products they can bring to market. We teach them how to validate them and ensure that they're profitable. And then we meet up with them in China, and we help them source and negotiate in person.
Wow. So it's really bring a product to market for China.
Bring a product to market that's produced in China and sold here in the U.S. or anywhere else in the world.
Wow. So you got to give me your history so to get a sense of how you get that experience. I mean, I've done a lot of product launchings in my life, but not China.
So my history's pretty varied. Actually, I was here in this area in Boston back in '77 with a semester at Harvard, but then I went on to University of Pennsylvania in Wharton. Eventually, though, to the shock of my father, I grew my hair long and became a fashion photographer and lived as a starving artist in Italy. That took me on a circuitous route. I got into multimedia. My team ended up beating Microsoft for the Oscars of e-learning one year. Microsoft recruited me, and I ended up in Seattle. But in Seattle and through Microsoft, I started working with China and Japan, doing a lot of negotiating. And that entrepreneur bug was sparked once again. So I started my own businesses, importing from China, using the skills I learned at Microsoft. And now that's all that I do. And I help other entrepreneurs take the same route I did, hopefully a little bit more directly than I did.
So how do people find you? I mean, and how does the process work? So I assume, I just don't come to you and say, what product should I manufacture and who should I use as a vendor in China?
Right.
So
our program...
I have some creative idea?
Exactly.
Okay.
The program's called the Canton Fair Experience because it focuses on the Canton Fair, which we'll talk about in another segment. But what we do is we start off with 2 months of training, over 40 hours of coursework, and we take you through everything from basic business development and understanding the difference between profit and sales, which is...
Is this before I have a product? I don't mean
before you have a product.
So somebody says, I want to become an entrepreneur, and I want to manufacture umbrellas in China or
Right.
whatever it is. And so they come to you. I'm sorry, and then...
Yep, they come to us, my partner Amy and myself, and we have twice a year, we have a course that starts, as I said, for 2 months. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to help you understand if umbrellas is really a product that's going to make you money and if people really want to spend their money buying it. You don't have to have a product. We will help you in the ideation phase where you start to learn what product is that works for you, that works for your customers, that you have passion about. Because it is like any other business. There are hard days and good days, so you want to make sure you're there during the hard days.
I'm going to give you a practical example. I don't know if you know about Peter, but he's quite an unusual character. Attorney, corporate attorney, artist, right? And mediator, but he's also an author. And he has a book that takes place in Vietnam, correct?
Right.
Would you be able to help him publish his book in China?
So,
Look at Peter's eyes.
I can't get a literary agent in the U.S.
Stop, Peter. Don't put yourself down before he answers. Don't throw yourself under the bus yet.
Well, no, it's an interesting question.
frankly, if you came
Big
to
audience,
us,
Peter.
if you came to us and said, "I have a book I want to publish," we would not recommend publishing it in China. These days, print on demand is so much more of an effective business model. But let's say you had a book cover, or you're a book lover, and there are certain products that would make your life easier, maybe an automatic page turner or bookshelves that do certain things, or maybe an anti-gravity book lifter. That's what we would help you source, produce, ship into the U.S., and get sold.
So do you vet out? I mean, people. So somehow somebody hears of you, and they come to you, and you have this course, which I assume you charge for. And so, do you vet out the people who you determine aren't good entrepreneurs, or is everybody a good entrepreneur by virtue of the fact that they're coming to you?
We vet out people who look at this as a get-rich scheme. We vet out people who are looking at this who are looking at this thinking, oh, I'm just going to follow this YouTube video I saw or something like that, because there's a lot of bad information out there. We want people to take it seriously. It's not a side gig, it's a business. And we look at it as a business.
No. I mean, I ask it in the context. So I'm very friendly with a guy who makes inserts into women's shoes, and they make them actually in Mexico and the U.S., and then they ship them to China for insertion into women's shoes. So he spends a lot of time in China. You know, he wouldn't be somebody that you would be interested in talking about because he already has the product and the vendor and
Correct.
and all that kind of stuff. So you know,
It's more of somebody who's starting their business.
Correct. Somebody who's starting their business, you
Needs that
source.
competitive advantage that China's going to give them.
okay.
Exactly. And you sell, your market that you sell to is all over the world,
So-
including the U.S., not particularly selling to China.
So I'll switch the questions from Peter. I'm much more of a marketer, product developer than Peter. So
I like his questions.
No, they're good questions. But let's say I wanted to go through your program. Can you give me some of the steps in the program and how long it would take?
Absolutely. The program is 2 months, and it's over 40 hours. The steps are, we start off with product ideation, understanding what makes a good product. We help you to start identifying products. Then we go through an editing list because we want to make sure the product is profitable. We want to make sure that we validate customer demand. So you have a profitable product people want. We go through the manufacturing processes, the sourcing processes, all the non-sexy stuff like IP protection and shipping and inspections and so on. And then one of the ones that people find most enjoyable, I love it, is negotiating with China, with Chinese suppliers. And then we bring that all together in person in China at the Canton Fair, which is the largest exposition of suppliers in the world. And we take you through and we make sure that you've got all of the knowledge you need. We bring you to Chinese factories so that you can see how things are done in factories, how QA is done, and so on. And then we help you source that product and negotiate it and get it for a good price, bring it into the U.S., and we help introduce you to the processes of getting it sold online and in retailers.
So it's not only a course, it's also a consulting process that you're applying.
Absolutely.
You're also their consultant, helping them bring it to market.
Yes. Not just Amy and I, but we've got other great consultants with us, including one of the top retail specialists in the U.S.
Interesting. And you said you just dropped the name Amy. And who's the Amy?
Amy is my partner. She's down in Texas. She's in San Antonio right now. And her specialty and experience is in Amazon, which everyone talks about these days. My background comes from selling to retailers, and together we have a broad-based result that people have products that they can sell across the board.
So she's really helping with the online sales
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and the distribution, presumably.
Yeah, distribution is another aspect of it. Online for Amazon and so on is rather simple. It's a little more complex when you're selling to retailers.
Yeah, they have slaves, right?
Stephen, fixed cost for this course?
Fixed course. Fixed cost for the course, yes.
And it's not full time though, but it is 40 hours.
It is 40 hours. We understand that it's summertime, so we try to make it as flexible as possible. At the same time, we have scheduled times to review homework, to answer questions, to hold people accountable, and so on.
Are there multiple companies in the course with you, or is it just one company at a time, or it depends?
No, it's our company does the course, but there are multiple participants all at the same time on the same schedule, and then everyone meets up together in China. So you're with everyone that you take the class
The class is virtual, or is it in one physical location like Boston or Seattle? You move around.
with. Right. No, it's virtual. We have people from all over the world until that point where you show up in China, and then it's physically at one location in Guangzhou, China.
It's the new educational experience.
So do you speak Chinese?
I barely speak English.
That's what I would have said. Everybody, we've been speaking with Stephen Selikoff of the Canton Fair Experience with Peter Myerson, who's off to China next week to sell his book. Stephen, if someone was looking for you in the Canton Fair Experience, how would they find you?
Just do a search online. It's thecantonfairexperience.com. Canton is Canton, Canton Fair Experience.
Great. Thanks for being on the show today, and we're going to take a break. We know we're going to have another interview with you at another time. We'll be right back after these messages.
Thanks, guys.